What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Job Board Secrets on YouTube, where we discuss the business of job boards. My name is Chris Russell. I'm the world's foremost job board consultant. If you're looking to start a job marketplace or need help with your existing business, that's where I come in. So go to jobboardsecrets.com and you can learn more there. My guest today is Asher King Abramson. He's the founder of warmerjobs.com. It's a new type of job instruction platform, as I kind of describe it. And we'll talk to him about his business. Welcome, Asher. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me. Nice to
Excellent.
meet you
So
too.
let's start with who you are and why you started this business. Give us some background.
Great. Yeah. So I started my career as a software engineer and then ended up getting into marketing a bit and then recruiting from that. So I have a very weird mix of skills and backgrounds, but a lot of my early career was in code boot camps. So we would train people in how to code. And then the idea was once they had the technical skills, they get the job afterward. Ended up doing something very similar in marketing. The idea was you train you in the marketing skills, copywriting, how to run ads, whatever it is. And then you get a job. But when I interviewed the folks who got jobs fastest and who did get jobs, very often they were getting jobs through their network and through referrals. And it was much more about them having a unique in at the company rather than them applying cold and sort of just getting in on the merits of their application. And usually it was a combination of the two, but I started digging into how to make that easier, and that led to Warmer Jobs, which is the easiest way to see all the open jobs in your network so that you can get referred. So the way it works is you sync your LinkedIn connections. Warmer Jobs goes and finds the career sites of each of your connections, searches on those sites for the job title that you're looking for,
Mhm.
and then shows you the results with the people you know.
Okay. Great domain name, by the way.
Thank
Nice
you.
job. One of my, top, recommendations is always buying a good.com, and that's a good one. Did someone have it, or did you have it in your back pocket and you were just waiting to use it, or?
You know, when I came up with the idea, I just did a bunch of searches for open domain names. And so this was one of those $10 domains that was just
I'm
out there
kidding.
and felt
Nice,
right. Yep.
nice. That's hard to find a good two-word job domain for $10. So excellent job there on that. I think it'll be great for your, the overall consumer market, and having that .com goes a long way.
I agree.
So, okay, so you scrape company career sites and leverage that LinkedIn connections. How can you elaborate on how this sort of direct sourcing model provides a better experience for seekers and companies compared to traditional job boards?
Yeah, so I think if you look at many traditional job boards, the way that they monetize is off of the employer, right? So if you look at LinkedIn, for example, employers are paying for sponsored job posts, right? And so the consequence of that is as a job seeker, if you're looking for roles inside your network, which there is technically a checkbox on LinkedIn that you can mark, and I encourage people to try it, the job seeker doesn't actually see that many relevant results, and there are a lot of results missing because a lot of companies don't pay LinkedIn to promote their postings. So especially if you're looking at smaller startups, maybe who have job postings hosted on Notion pages, right? Or even if they're using an ATS, you look at the Levers, Greenhouses, et cetera of the world, they won't always show up on searches on LinkedIn just
Hmm.
because those jobs aren't promoted or they're buried 10, 20 pages deep because these other jobs that have been paid for show up first. And so the idea is it's job seeker centric, it's job seeker first. And I think that because job seekers pay for their subscriptions, it's able to offer them a much better experience and they actually see more jobs that are relevant to them off of it.
Gotcha. Would you mind sharing your screen and showing the site a bit? Just maybe walk us through a quick
Sure.
use case. Yeah,
Yeah, no problem. So
the
let me,
audience to see it. Yeah.
one sec. Okay, let me share my screen. All right, is this showing up?
Yep.
Great. All right, so let's say I'm looking for a marketing job in San Francisco, doing this on the fly. So these are all open marketing jobs that showed up in the last few days. And as you probably know, the sooner you reach out after a job goes up, the more likely you are to hear back. So it's sorted by when the job was most recently updated. And if I want to, let's say, get a job at, I don't know, Vercel, right? And there's this job for a growth marketer. I see that Marco works there, and Marco was the designer at a former client of mine. So what I could do here is open it up, make sure it works, click through to the job posting, say, okay, this looks good. And then I see that I know Marco, so I can reach out to him and say, hey, saw this job posting open for a growth marketer. Any chance you could refer me, or do you know anyone on the hiring team, that kind of thing. And so the goal there, right, is you can find the side door in, and sometimes you get fast-tracked in the application process. Sometimes you get better coaching around what to do in the job interview, et cetera, et cetera. But you get looked at a lot more often this way. So that's
Yep.
It's mainly how it works. There's a couple other bells and whistles around. You can add friends to see jobs through them in their networks as well. So if you want an introduction to someone else, I'm happy to demo that. And there's also alerts that you can set. Let's see what else. Yeah, but that's the main functionality really is just you see the jobs in your network and they show up
Mhm.
like this. That's mainly it.
Okay. And what's like, can I do this on LinkedIn right now? How would you differentiate?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll even show you how it works on LinkedIn, right? So if I
Yeah.
go to LinkedIn and then what is it, jobs? So let's say I ran the same search for, let's say growth marketing, right? In the United States. Why not?
Okay.
Actually, let's do in San Francisco because that's just to keep it a little more scoped. Great. So if you go to all filters and then you go to on the right, where is it? In your network, you can turn that on, show the results. You'll see that there's a few jobs that show up, but they're mainly at larger companies, right? And some of these aren't even related. Like account strategist isn't really a growth marketing role, right? Um, what else? Client partner, senior associate. Like I don't even know if that's growth related, right? Senior
Yeah.
analyst in marketing. So a lot of these just aren't really related jobs to what I searched here. And so I think you can see that all these are promoted and it takes if I go, you have to go many, many pages deep to see jobs that aren't promoted. I don't even know
Hmm.
if they show them anymore. But you can see these are just like product strategy and operations lead or program manager. Like these are not these are not growth marketing jobs, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
um,
Yeah, I got
that's the
you.
main difference. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Um, w- um, how do I don't know every connection I have on LinkedIn. Do you worry about that kind of, that warmth, connection there for the users?
Good question. Yeah. So there's a way to ignore connections if you know that you don't know them. I usually encourage people to still keep them in the
Yep.
connections they have so they can search for them. But if I don't know Aaron Appleton, right, I could mark them as ignored, and he wouldn't show up anymore in the results. So there's a way to easily turn them off if you want. You
Gosh,
can also, in your settings, exclude certain company names or job titles if you don't want to see those too. So,
very cool. Okay. Let's talk about monetization. Asher,
yes.
what's the business model here? Give me a sense of how you looking to grow this business.
Yep. So it's consumer subscription. So there's a free tier so people can play around with it, see the value, see some results. But if they want to see the most recent results within the last 4 days, then they pay a monthly subscription for it. This is the current price. And that's mainly it. There are a few custom plans for recruiters, career coaches, businesses that want to do stuff at scale, but that's the main model here.
Yep. Where are you getting the jobs from? Are you
Yes.
doing?
So jobs are on the actual company sites. So the way that it works is when the user syncs their LinkedIn connections, Warmer Jobs goes and finds the career sites of each of those companies, and then it's
Okay.
finding. Sometimes it's the ATS, right? Sometimes it's literally just the jobs that are posted on the page. Like you see this with, I don't know, a lot of nonprofits, right? A lot of smaller companies. It's just a job right on the page, and then it's using AI to extract the job posts from that page also.
Yep.
So the idea is it's the actual source of truth of where the jobs are. It's not going through Indeed. It's not going through LinkedIn or any of these intermediaries. Yeah, out
The
there.
fact that you're kind of a consumer business here is kind of interesting to me. In the last, 10 years ago, you couldn't get away with something like this. Like job seekers didn't pay for anything. But now that pendulum has swung in the other direction. Now you're seeing all the new businesses in this space like Teal, Resi, your site here.
Yep.
You're charging the seeker, but you're offering value there. Right? Talk about that value proposition for the seekers because if you do offer value, they will pay for it, right?
I think so, yeah. And I think it depends on the job seeker too. I mean, there are a lot of job seekers who will say, I'm a job seeker, I'm unemployed, I can't afford to pay for
Yeah.
tools, right? And I think that I want to offer them value still so that they can see some jobs that they could apply to. But I think job seekers are realizing that it's a really tough job market. And my personal take on this, and I'd be curious to hear yours, is that there are so many AI generated job application platforms out there that recruiters are just getting spammed with hundreds of applications within the first few days. And so
Mhm.
there's so much noise around who is actually a good candidate that the job seeker has to do more work to show the signal of who they are. Like it goes far beyond just a cold application or a resume. And so I think leaning on warm connections, I think being strategic about this, and that can show up in other tools they invest in, right? It can also show up in hiring a career coach. But I think job seekers are realizing they need to invest more in their job search to see good results because otherwise they're just spraying and praying into the wind. And that
Yeah.
doesn't work.
And you're right. Applications are up across the board if you ask any ATS out there. So It's definitely a new problem out there. Um, it is kind of a crowded market though, Asher. Like you're facing all these different AI resume tools and that kind of stuff. Are you looking to raise money? Give me some sense of how you want to gain traction here and gain some market share and stuff.
Yeah, good question. So far, it's bootstrapped. Again, I'm this weird mix of software engineering and marketing, so I've been able to do most of it myself so far. I think if there's a ton of constraints that come with growth, and that's a great problem to have, if Warmer Jobs really takes off, then I'd consider raising money. But I think right now, very happy bootstrapping it. I'm happy to share numbers around it. I'm around 1.5K MRR right now,
Okay.
across maybe 30 active customers per month, but we have over 1,000 users. So.
That's
Um,
awesome. That's awesome. What was your tell me about your first customer you got that
The
you do.
first, yeah, yeah.
How long did it take, first of all, when you launched after you launched the site?
So the way I launched, so I had customers before I ever launched the site.
Okay.
And the way that I first launched was I posted to LinkedIn that I wanted to run an experiment, that because I had had this idea of I think it's useful to see the open jobs in your network. And so I
Mhm.
said, I will personally craft a Google sheet once with all of the open roles, and I will personally go to all the career sites of all your connections.
Hmm.
And then I had a Google form, and I asked people how much they would pay for me to do this for them. And I had a few different signups, but the first one was this guy who was like a senior growth marketing person, who'd been following me on LinkedIn. And so I sent him a link on Stripe. He paid, and I then emailed him the Google sheet. And he was my first customer.
Wow.
So that
Wow.
that eventually turned into a more automated process,
Yeah.
but that was the first one. So.
Well, did he land a job through that? I need to know.
I don't. I think he landed interviews through it. I don't
Yeah.
think he landed a job through it though.
That's the important thing. If you can get them interviews, that's a long way towards getting a job. So good
I think
job.
so. And the good news is, once you have the interview, I think then you can rely more on the skills that you have, your unique background, et cetera. I have talked with folks who have gotten jobs though, which is also very, thrilling and refreshing from this.
Yep. Given that users sync their LinkedIn connections, are there any data privacy rules you have to follow through LinkedIn, or what kind of measures have you put in place there to ensure that security?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of questions around this. So I think one thing that Warmer Jobs doesn't do that a lot of other tools do is it doesn't break LinkedIn's terms of service through any kind of Chrome extension or scraping or anything like that. The way it works is it works off of the data export that you are allowed to do as a user. It's part of LinkedIn's privacy and data protections. So there's actually a page on LinkedIn. I'm happy to show you.
Didn't they
Um,
kill that a while back? You could export all your users.
yeah, no, so it's right here. So you can download your connections
Yep.
right here on the download my data page. You request it, and what you end up seeing is maybe I can even show you an example, but it'd take a couple minutes to pull up. But you basically end up just seeing a list of it's the name of the person you know, their LinkedIn URL, and their company name.
Mhm.
Some folks will include their email address if they want to make it public on LinkedIn anyway, but Warmer Jobs doesn't use that information. The only way that Warmer Jobs uses the information is to know what sites to search and who to show you who works at those companies if there is a job at that company. So it doesn't remarket to anyone. It doesn't sell the data, nothing like that. It's really just to know what sites to search. Um, and what else would I say? Oh, also, I think a lot of people don't realize that their connection data is actually open to anyone they've connected with on LinkedIn. So you mentioned these random people who you're connected with.
Mhm.
If they search on LinkedIn, and I can show you how to do it, you can actually see everyone who's a connections connection just if you're connected with them, right? So if you go to people and then on the right, go to all filters and you want to see second degree connections or first through connections of anyone, right? So Ridgen introduced us. So if I put him here, I'd actually see all of his connections showing up here anyway. And anyone who you're connected with can do something like this. So
Yep.
um,
Gotcha. Okay. 10 years ago, Asher, I launched something called Jobs with Friends, which was basically the Facebook version of this,
mhm.
where you would sign in with your Facebook account. You would it would pull your friends' data, your friends where your friends worked essentially, and then it would match up Indeed jobs from the API to them. And then, of course, Facebook famously killed the API program and took that business away. Do you worry about that from a LinkedIn standpoint? Like, because you're building on someone else's platform here, right?
Right. Yeah, I think that's a real risk, and I'm curious what ended how you handled that, or if the site shut down once Facebook killed the API.
And
But
that was the end of Jobs with
that
Friends.
was it. Yeah. So I think the good news is there are some other indirect ways to get at someone's connections, and you can also have them add them manually at the end of the day if you need to. But there's things like syncing Gmail contacts, things like Actually, I've had some users ask if they can just import their phone contacts and then
That's
map it that
interesting.
way.
Yeah.
So I think there are ways around it. I think LinkedIn is the easiest way right now, but I think there are other approaches here too. And I think part of my hypothesis here too is that because there is a network of people and who helps someone else get jobs,
Yep.
even just through adding someone as a friend on warmer jobs, there's going to be some value in knowing who works where, and people may be able to just join the platform, say where they work, and then help each other out too. So I
Yeah.
think there's a user generated aspect to this
The actual when you want to get referred, is there like a show me that part again where you do
too.
you message
Yeah, sure.
the person in LinkedIn or
So if I want to add you as a friend, right, I could send you a link or I could enter your email here.
yep.
So let's say I'm friends with Pranav, right? He's my old business partner. So if I wanted to see jobs through Pranav and then I search again, let's do marketing, San Francisco. I'm doing
But
this on the
if you click
fly
on their
here.
name, you can see the jobs.
Yes, that's also true. So you'll
There's
see
a
it in my results here, though. Pranav can introduce me to
gotcha.
Tony at Airtable, all of that. But also what I could do is click on Pranav and then see just the jobs in his network.
Okay.
Say, software engineer. And then these are all people that he knows that I don't know.
Okay. That's cool. I like that. Yeah. Nice. Any new functionality you want to build here? What like how far do you think you've gone so far here?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there are some features that other job search platforms have that Warmer Jobs hasn't focused on quite yet. Some easy ones are company size, company industry, funding stage, that kind of thing. There are some advanced filters you can sort through if you look at these, but I think I've gotten some requests for other filters that I haven't added yet. Um, what else? There's there's also a lot on the tactical side of job searching. And so one thing that I've learned from all the users I've talked with is people aren't particularly good at knowing what titles to search. And that dictates so much
Yeah.
of what jobs turn up, right? And so there's a little bit of logic now in the app where if you search for a title and it doesn't show results, it tries to guess what titles you should be searching. But I think something around suggesting the right job titles and maybe even just suggesting jobs based on the current jobs in your network and having a feed of jobs, that's something that's interesting to build in the future too.
Definitely. Awesome. So you're say 1.5K annual revenues or monthly
Monthly,
revenues.
monthly
Yep.
recurring, yeah.
Have you had any success stories over since that time?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are getting jobs at Airbnb or interviews at Airbnb, Rippling, the Federal Reserve, and they're all in all sorts of ways. I mean, the Federal Reserve person, it was interesting because their contact at the Federal Reserve said that the entire process was very meritocratic and they treat everyone equally. But it turns out that in order to get the interview, you still need to have certain keywords in your resume and cover letter that get flagged by the ATS. And so their contact there was able to tell them, use these specific keywords so you at least get in the system to get the interview.
Yeah.
And that actually ended up getting them in the door when otherwise they would not have. So that's been great. Hearing yeah, emails from folks who got jobs, I think is awesome. The
Yeah.
Rippling person got a job. That's one example. But
Well, you got some early signs of success there, so your approach seems to be working. What last question, sure was like, what do your friends talk about when they talk about job hunting? Because it pretty much sucks for everybody out there.
yeah,
Like, I've been in this business for 25 years. It's never gotten better.
yeah.
But what do you tell your friends when it comes to job hunting advice?
Yeah, I mean, one obviously is look for jobs in your network and try to get referred as much as you can. And I think there are a lot of jobs where you don't realize you can get referred. There's also the approach that you probably know called, finding the side door, right? If there's a company you really want to work at, you don't know anyone there,
Company
find the
hunting.
hiring,
Yeah,
yes, the company hunting, exactly. Find the hiring manager, reach out, do some sort of special work for them. I think that's great. If you're really like motivated and inspired to do it. I think what I hear from a lot of people and from friends is they focus a lot on the cold application part still. I think people are still in the mindset of, I am job hunting, I need to send out cold applications. And so they're just not very strategic about the way they find companies, the way that they reach out. They're not very intentional about that. And so I think finding any way to get into a hiring process without just spraying and praying and applying cold, you're already ahead of 85% of people. Um, so that's usually the advice that I give is
yeah.
find jobs in your network, talk with people, keep a list of former coworkers, friends that you enjoyed working on projects with and reach out to them and monitor what they're doing. I think that's a really great way also.
All right. Well, the site is warmerjobs.com for the audience there. Asher, great job, man. I'd love to see you keep going here and stay in touch with us and let us know how it's going.
Sounds great. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Appreciate it. That will do it for this episode. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.